Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for episode 9 of The Green Life. In today's episode, which is a little personal, I'm interviewing Tom and Zoe, were friends of mine and the founders of Wunder Workshop, a brand I've been following and using since 2015. Wunder Workshop is about creating health for the planet and the people. For the people, because the ingredients they use are wonderful for our health. They're real superfoods like turmeric, ginger, maca, licorice, you name it. For the planet, because they really care about where these products, where these ingredients come from. So they work with regenerative agriculture and agroforestry in communities and support the communities they get their products from. So this is not about profit, it's not about growth, it's about creating something real good. And I can vouch for that because I've been using their products for a very long time. So in today's episode, I really hope that you learn more about the brand, but also the message behind it and how important it is to know where our ingredients come from, but also to support the communities that produce them. Without further ado, welcome Tom and Zoe. Hey Tom and Zoe, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Good. So nice to speak to you again.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're not too far from each other, but it feels like it's been hard to get anywhere, so it feels really far. So
yes,
yeah. Well, so you just came back from Colombia, Zoe. So that's it's such a that's definitely far, but it's also beautiful that you could get there after all this time that we couldn't really go anywhere. So it's nice. Well done.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you for joining me today. I think this is a really important episode to talk about. We know we are navigating really difficult times, and so it's nice to talk about brands that actually support communities while they're still, doing business in the more traditional sense, in brackets. So, but before we get started, for people that might not know Wunder Workshop, you want to give me a little bit of background about how it came about and the inspiration, and about you guys working together, Zoe and Tom.
Yeah, I guess I'll start a little bit. We founded Wunder Workshop now 8 years ago, and it really stemmed from a personal journey, especially on my side. My late mother, she was a naturopath, and I was raised like vegetarian, and we grow our own veggies, and everything was organic or biodynamic, and that was always very important. So that kind of lifestyle really was always part of me, and my passion really was all about working with plants and creating potions. And I always spent a lot of time going to herb shops or just organic shops and just looking at all these products and just loving them all and spending every penny that I saved just on health foods. So at that time, I'd been to Sri Lanka a few times with my mother and learned a lot about Ayurvedic healing and also, just the lifestyle. And at that point in my life, I really wanted to start my own business, or with Tom together. We were both working full time at that time, but I kind of made the plunge and went for it, and decided to fully start focusing on creating a product with farmers I met in Sri Lanka. And we started with our focus on turmeric and a fresh golden milk. And since then, we've grown to how many products, Tom?
20, 25, 26.
Yeah, we kind of lost count. We should recount, but I think around 25 to 30 products, all kind of stemming from the same passion of, first of all, health and health of the planet and the farmers that we've met and the communities around them, and seeing the importance of how things are farmed and how that really affects the health of all of us and all beings and nature. So that's really how we design and develop products, from that point of meeting farmers and then thinking, what could we create with these beautiful spices or ingredients? And then, coming to a product that is also good for the consumer. That's kind of in a short summary of how we work. And Tom joined, he was helping from the beginning.
So my background is in pharmacology, and I was without the upbringing that Zoe had, very conventional modern upbringing in a sense. without this, knowledge of organic and so on. And in meeting Zoe and having my eyes opened in many ways to that whole concept, I went and saw that actually lots of spices, herbs, plants were being, they are and still are what we use as modern medicines today, just extracts of. And that was really sort of a sort of light bulb moment for me, because I could research turmeric where we first started, and there were over 1,500 studies on how beneficial it is as an anti-inflammatory, as an antioxidant, and so on. And that was really mind-blowing for me at the time. So working with whole, natural, well-grown herbs, spices, mushrooms, ingredients, whatever you want to call them, that was something that became abundantly clear just how important that one was.
Yeah, and especially, I don't know if you mentioned that you worked in pharmacology.
So yeah, working in the pharma industry at the early stage of my sort of working life was really disheartening to see that there were so many people were being given so many drugs, and it was one drug to, for an initial problem, and then 5 drugs on top of that to help with side effects. And you just get into this horrible cycle. And I was, helping with medication management systems, for instance, for all of these pills that people had to keep up to date with to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Really, in learning through Ayurveda as well, that prevention is better than cure, and that has really been our kind of philosophy from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this reflects also on the health and prevention of destruction of our nature. So prevention also in nature works, because if you don't look after your soil, then it's really impossible to get good crops. And so tell me a little bit about the farms that you work with, especially in Sri Lanka. That's your original one, the original source. What aside from the fact that are linked to the Ayurvedic lifestyle, what was that heartwarming feeling that you got when you knew that that was the right place to work with, and the right people and the right community?
So when I first went out to find these farms, it was very unplanned and maybe I say naive, but in a very positive way. Naivety was very helpful, because I just went for it without overthinking it, and drove around on tuk-tuks and asking people. Basically everyone kind of was like, oh, I might know someone, you should visit him or her. And that's sort of how it came about in the beginning. But the farms that really, as you said, had this heartwarming feeling was seeing that they were just actually forests. They weren't, as we have this conception of farm, and you envision like a big, huge field of rows of one type of plant. But no, these farms or forests, they are just like mimicking a natural biodiversity of nature and the environment. And in that way, things grow really harmoniously. And you have the cinnamon growing next to the turmeric, and the ginger and the black pepper and the vanilla and the cacao, etc., etc. And it's just, it's what they call a food forest. And a lot of families have this as a very small plot as part of their garden or their house. And those are really the farms that we decided that we really wanted to work with, because we understood from seeing and from learning and hearing from their traditional farming methods that is the best way to keep the biodiversity, and like it's good for all the insects, and it's like the best way of controlling pests. And it was just super inspiring and very actually new to me. I knew biodynamic and organic farming, but this kind of goes another step further in terms of really looking after the biodiversity of nature. So that set the standards very high in terms of our farm, or like our sourcing. And we fully try to solely work with those kind of farms. It's not always that easy, because as I said, like often organic which is our kind of our benchmark, like our lowest benchmark, doesn't mean that it's not monoculture. So we really, try to harvest from as biodiverse farms as possible. And also some of our ingredients, the farms, they're actually just wild harvested. For example, our licorice or yarrow, which will be for another product. But yes, they are just from the wild, and same with our chaga mushrooms. So yeah, we kind of just really try to focus on how it's sourced and grown in the most biodiverse way possible.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's the biodiversity, and as you said, the soil health, which ultimately determines the health of the plants and the environment around it. And in having a healthier soil, it creates more nutrient dense products, more nutrient dense produce for us to consume. And that's really been our long-standing observation of it, is that when things are grown in such a way, they taste better, they're more vibrant, they bring a sort of more positive energy into the world as well. And I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So now you have this high benchmark agroforestry in Sri Lanka, but your products have been developing into other regions as well for what obviously you want as a source. So tell me a little bit about the coffee, because I love coffee. And coffee is a big topic, like cacao, really, because there are two industries that are heavily exploited because of the massive production, but also these major companies that just take over everything. And we have seen documentaries, you've probably seen them all, where because of their impact, they basically have created a monoculture in places where it's actually not even natural to grow certain things. And just to make it cheap and available, but that obviously goes against everything that we should use, because we're now talking about depletion of nutrients and the soil and so on. So with coffee, what was your thinking, and how did you find the farm that you work with? And tell me a little bit about them.
Yeah, sure. I've just returned from Colombia, so I've just seen it firsthand, and it really came about from working with a beautiful reforestation project called Jaguar Siempre, which works with indigenous communities in the Sierra Nevada in Colombia, and they really focus on regenerating the soil and nature, because a lot of the indigenous land has been exploited for the cocaine industry, for the marijuana as well, for the drug industry, and for cattle, livestock farming. And it's only been, I think, a decade or longer that a bit longer than that the government has decided to give the land back to these indigenous communities. But the land is depleted, well, a lot of it. So projects like Jaguar Siempre, they're really working on reforesting this land and creating kind of, again, this natural biodiversity that was present. And obviously the communities need to be engaged in it as well, so it needs to be beneficial for them, because of course, first the government promised, here, have some cattle and you can make money from rearing cattle. So in a way, we started working with them maybe 4 years ago, and as you might have seen on our website, you can either buy trees, or 1% of our yearly revenue we donate to planting trees with them in a very biodiverse way. So again, it's not like a monoculture tree planting, which unfortunately happens a lot as well, but it's a very biodiverse forest they're creating, and it's beneficial to the communities because they're also creating these cash crops such as coffee and cacao, that they can focus on exporting or just selling to more local communities. But that's kind of how it came about, because the organization mentioned that they have beautiful coffee, and we're like, okay, let's work with that. It didn't, as with many of our products, it didn't come from oh, I love coffee, I want to find coffee and sell it. No, it just more came from hearing and meeting the farm and the community, and being like, okay, this sounds like a really beneficial project to the community, and I'm sure a lot of people love coffee, so let's work with that. That's kind of how it came about. And yeah, when I was there just last week, we saw the beautiful cacao forests as well. And again, they're like surrounded by lots of other trees like plantain and bananas and papaya. And at the more ground level, there's turmeric and ginger. So it's really already growing into food forest and very biodiverse. And it's still at its early stages, but it's incredible how quickly it's already turning. So yeah, kind of fruitful and abundant. So yeah, our future cacao will be sourced from there as well, which is really exciting. Yeah, so that's kind of how we start working with Colombia. And yeah, I think that's just
pretty,
yeah.
Nailed it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. I grew some turmeric in the greenhouse, which I wasn't sure it was gonna make it, but the little greenhouse where now I'm doing I'm making it more of a pollinator garden, has a very humid environment. So the turmeric was happy. Now I don't have these massive big turmeric. They were like little tiny little babies, but it was nice to see them, and actually they're really good. So I'm using them in smoothies or just adding them onto things. It was nice to try it.
Amazing. Yeah, we've never managed to live in a humid enough environment to grow our own, unfortunately, apart from having them in our flat in London, but it wasn't very like a big
wasn't
harvest.
Particularly fruitful, no.
Yeah, like mine, babies. So now that you actually moved from London, from the UK, good segue into Mallorca, right? So why Mallorca?
Well, we both had been here before and really loved the energy of the place. It's got such a, I mean, it does have a bit of a magnetic pull to the island, and particularly where we are on the west coast. There's a really nice small creative community that we've been able to sort of resonate with and meet a lot of people out here. So it's been really, really positive. But I think, when Zoe came here for the first time, it was a kind of life changing experience that was felt throughout your whole body, and you were really, really drawn to make the move. And I've been here a couple of times before, just with friends, but it's there's what's not to love. It's a beautiful island in the Mediterranean, and I was very open to that change.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think it was, I can never fully describe it, but it felt like falling in love with something or someone, but I never had it with a place. Like I fully had butterflies and I just knew this is it. And I was very confused by that because I'd never even considered moving to Spain or anywhere really at that time. So yeah, it was just very impulsive and kind of beautiful to listen to those impulses and make it happen. And it's been really rewarding being here. And yeah, we've started working with a few projects or farmers out here as well, because we really, obviously we find it so important to be working with what is around you and not just what's far away, but also really seeing what's close in front of us. And sometimes I think I've taken that for granted, growing up with my mother, all her knowledge and all these plants around us, I kind of took them all for granted. And I think in the last 3 or 2 years, we've really been on a journey kind of going back to our ancestral plants that are really part of us here. So yeah, we've worked with the olive trees for the olive oil for our regenerative CBD drops, and we've hand harvested orange leaves for the essence, also for this product. And yeah, there are lots of other ideas that we have with the plants around us and the communities and the people that grow them. So yeah, it's a constant, exciting journey. It's just about prioritizing things as usual, because I could forever
create products.
Yes.
I don't blame you though. Nature is so fantastic. You can it can be used in so many ways, right? There's so many benefits from all the plants. You just want to do good, and your ingredients can be mixed and matched. I mean, aside from bringing new things in, you have things that just really work well together. So even if you haven't created a product that perhaps puts two that you haven't used that together yet, but you can. And so I can imagine your brain is like, I can do this. So yeah, so it's amazing. Fantastic. So life on the island sounds good, and I can relate. I think also the fact that you both love nature, and I know Zoe from following you even on social media, like when you are in nature, you really appreciate what's around you, which a lot of people don't see. Like people go for walks, but sometimes it's just a walk, and you actually pay attention to things. You pay attention to the details, and that gives you an edge because you communicate to the holy watchers that are those mother angels that are all in nature. So I think such a beautiful way to work with them, and they're very keen to heal and to help. This is why the Most High created everything. So it's great to see it in action through your products and your attitude. So I'm not surprised that you feel at home there. And also, I've seen that you are also you're farming your own little garden, which I thought it was amazing. It's amazing. And so, how's that going? And how are the chickens?
Yeah,
Well,
the
yeah.
garden was, I mean, it's something that we always wanted to do. And it's really just a very small scale little huerto, a little project. But we wanted to follow biodynamic principles and, really focusing on the soil and using as much, growing as many of the herbs and vegetables that we could to become a kind of self-sufficient, sustainable sort of living in this space. And it's been a project. It's definitely been learning as we go along and hugely time-consuming, but in the most beneficial way. Because every time that you step out there, you're in touch with nature. You're getting your hands dirty, and you feel alive. You feel so much happier coming in at the end of the day, exhausted, but alive. Feeling alive.
Yeah, I relate completely.
Touching the soil. Just, I don't know, every time I touch the soil, I just imagine how billions of these incredibly beneficial bacteria are on my hands. And that might sound weird to some people, but I love, getting my hands in the soil and just envisioning the goodness that it actually gives me rather than straight away like disinfecting or scrubbing it off. I actually really cherish the dirt. And as you said, like just being in nature is just so healing and rewarding. Like we can get so stuck on our laptop still, of course, because we're working all day, but just the moment we step outside and connect, it's just kind of all falls away, all the worries and the stress. And just hiking through nature here in our garden is really rewarding. And also just sitting with my chickens. I love them so much. They're so, they I don't know, they just bring me a lot of joy and love as well. And it's kind of, a really beautiful thing to see. You just assume chickens are, well, I don't know what people assume, but mainly they assume it's food, but they are just so much more. And they really are so sociable. Like the moment we go outside, they will follow us the whole time, and they will sit with us when we're gardening or having a drink outside or something. They come and sit with us, and I really enjoy being around people. So just things like that are just really, beautiful to observe, to learn again, to relearn these things about nature and us humans and relationship to animals. It's been a really good journey.
Yeah, I hear you. And you have 3 kitties as well. They are beautiful. They're great. So let's just step a little bit about the business side, just not the happy side, but how the last 2 years have been really crazy in general. But then Brexit also didn't help just before the whole pandemic thing. How have you been navigating dealing with all the changes? Because that was at the same time you were moving, and then this happened, then Brexit happened. Then of course there's never a rule that almost gives you the time to really organize anything. Nobody knows what they're doing because the instructions are not clear. And we know that this is all BS, for lack of better words, when it comes to just people, creating problems for nothing. But how has it been navigating the business side, like to keep going with obviously importing your goods, and I guess you still making the blends in the UK. So yeah, tell me a little bit how have you been navigating the environment that has been ever changing since 2019 now.
Yeah, I mean it's been a constant sort of a fluid set of challenges which keep coming, like running 110-meter hurdles or something like that, but just forever and ever. It's yeah, every time that we think that you've created a new, you've understood it. We had, our first shipment from the UK to Europe went through without any problems, and then our second one, I think they actually started really going through all of and applying a lot of the rules post-Brexit. And it took us 6 attempts back and forth with pallet worth of stock to, shipping into Europe. And each time you learn, a reason why something isn't going through, but it's, where we get there slowly. And it has been a learning curve, and all of these things that that we are experiencing, they go back towards our own personal growth or growth as part of the business. Of course, it has interrupted things over the past 2 years, and it hasn't been beneficial for just focusing on our key messages and being able to spread the word confidently about regeneratively grown, organic, beautiful plants and tinctures and herbs and everything. It's been a headache, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I struggled more with it, perhaps because I take it all very personal, what's happening in the world, which is not useful for your mental health. But yeah, Brexit has been very challenging and very frustrating because it just doesn't make sense, in terms of anything that's benefiting from it. We can't see it. So yeah, it's just been very difficult, and we've lost a lot of like EU distributors in the beginning and stores, and we've managed to kind of rebuild new contacts or new kind of supporters in a way. But yeah, in the beginning it was very challenging, and then of course the pandemic was a huge headache. And I think the main thing is, though, every week I'm just realizing how grateful we are that we are still going. And like, yeah, quite frankly, we've lost probably 2/3 of our business, but we're still going. And I think that's the main thing. We're still, spreading our message, and we believe that we will grow again, and that it isn't all about growth. And that can sometimes feel, difficult because our society is so focused on growth, and then we just see like the graph going kind of downwards in our revenue, but we're still fine. So it's kind of just, it's a mental thing, thinking we should grow versus actually we're fine. And we're optimistic, and, we just keep going.
And there have been loads of positives as well that came from the pandemic. For instance, like our tinctures that we launched quite recently, they were born purely from the very first lockdown where we were in London. And yeah, we were able to take stock of what we had achieved, what had been accomplished, and what we wanted to really focus on, with an ever-changing world sort of taking place in front of us. We really wanted to focus on more locally grown herbs and plants, and being able to, interact with our customers that we'd met over the past 6 years, being able to sort of integrate their feedback and thoughts, as well as what made us launch these tinctures. So targeting the needs that people highlighted the most. Of course, things at the beginning of the pandemic, it was anxiety and immune system, but these, of course, are always concerns. And so we are really happy to be able to source and create the tinctures as a result of this.
Yeah, and I think the new, refining, like even refining your client base, the ones that understand you, that follow you, they just know what they're buying, they know why they're following you. They know why they are using your products. And then the ones that haven't found you yet and they are looking and they're finding you now, those are people that are interested in their health. So their approach to taking steps towards, using tinctures that maybe before they took it for granted they didn't need them, but actually they come to think, well, I need a little bit of health, and the more natural, the better. So you're going to get a new group of people that really are looking for solutions. And again, you said it, this world is all about growth, but growth comes with cutting short either the supply chain or the very farmers or the quality of the food. And then what are the products really all about, and what are the people actually using? And with your transparency and your dedication to from source to consumer, it's that you're not cutting any corners. So that whatever you're using is good for you. Like, you're gonna just feel better. I went through a period where I couldn't get the products just when Brexit happened. So just because it was fine to order, but then get them to Portugal, and the custom here was also a mess. I mean, I don't know how many packages have been lost. I don't know what they ended up. It was insane. Or things that turned up after 6 months. Like, okay. And so I just didn't use them. And I actually felt like I was missing something, because it had become part of my routine to even just have the turmeric every day and have the powders, especially Glow Balance, because of my hormones. I felt it. So, you know what you're using. And I wasn't really going to go and buy other products locally that I wasn't sure where they came from, because they have like options, but they're not the same. They really aren't. And so it's nice, you just get that kind of people that follow, which is good. And now my last question, I guess, could be, with everything changing and people cutting corners, and we know how difficult it becomes, what is your stand on fair trade? Because of course, then there are a lot of companies that are like, this is fair trade, but then you look into it, and it's like, it depends like what you look at when you say fair trade. What does it mean? Because I mean, fair trade for me is your relationship with the farmers, knowing that, look, you're gonna pay them a good wage because they need to obviously work and live, and they need to continue producing amazing products. But fair trade, just like organic, as much as they're great, they do have sometimes some corners that people can be like, oh, maybe we can get away with this, and it depends the interpretation sometimes. So I wonder how you see those kind of labels that one can put on their business. And I know how you look at it, but what do you see in the industry happening with everything that's happened also in the past 2 years? Does that affect the way that fair trade is seen, it works, the benchmarks of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, fair trade, I think as a whole concept, it's a really, really beneficial thing, because of course, and particularly in certain industries that are, enormous, like tea, the cacao industry, vanilla, and so on. These are, mostly dominated by 2 or 3 enormous companies like Nestle and whoever else. But the overall aim is very nice, and it's obviously what you would want. You would want the workers are being fairly paid, fairly treated, and not being, as it always kind of is with commodities and things, is the race to the bottom to make it the cheapest and the most accessible. And that, it does on the surface protect a lot of their rights and pay. However, it does also stifle their potential to earn based on quality. And so, and it also does allow, larger farms to be able to, capitalize on that and take shortcuts in their pay as well, by providing, housing on site, or schooling on site, which is very beneficial, but it then it removes people's freedoms in many ways as well. And so there are lots of positives, but there are a few. It does provide a kind of limit, a glass ceiling for the workers. I don't know if you have anything to add.
I mean, I'm always a bit doubtful about all these certificates and logos and things that one also pays for as a business, because in the end they're industries, they're businesses as well. And for example, Fairtrade, they're also a huge business and they have to pay a lot for their offices, etc. So, when you pay for that, you kind of like, it's also, of course, you understand it needs to be run and organized, etc. But you also would want more of that money you pay as a brand to go actually directly to these farmers. So that's always something I'm just, doubtful of. And it's the same, obviously, with all the other certifiers, such as for organic or well, there's so many new ones these days. So yeah, I'm always a bit on the fence, even though, we have been organic certified since day one, and I fully appreciate all the hard work that goes into it, but it also really excludes a lot of amazing farms, and especially these small farms who cannot afford to be organically certified or fair trade certified. It requires a lot of paperwork and a lot of investment upfront, and so sometimes we consider launching products that are not actually organic according to the guidebook, but we do like pesticide tests and all kinds of heavy metal tests to see these products are organic, because it's not full of pesticides, but they don't have the finances to have this stamp. So it's very confusing, especially as a consumer. I'm the same. I go into a shop and I'll just look for the logo and I'll be like, okay, I'll buy that, and I won't buy the one that doesn't have the logo, unless there is, of course, a story and it says, okay, this farm cannot afford it, etc. But yeah, it's convenience and it's helpful for the consumers to have these labels. But also, yeah, with fair trade, it's sometimes like it's based on like the world index in terms of what the kilogram price is per commodity, and that obviously fluctuates a lot. So that's also very confusing sometimes, like how much is the farm then actually benefiting when at a certain time the fluctuation is not in their favor. So also one thing that we really tried to focus on is that there are processing sites like linked to these farms, so they actually it adds more value for the communities to process a product, like say drying or like grinding into powder or something. Because if we just take these commodities, even if it's fair trade, and they only get the small kilogram price, which is not a high margin, then we kind of adding the benefit and the value in, say, the UK. Whereas, yeah, we really try to add the benefit and the value in, for example, Sri Lanka or in Afghanistan, where we've worked. So yeah, there is just a lot to consider on top of these labels. And I guess it's all about, brand transparency in terms of showing where they're adding the value truly. And
And well, consumer inquisitiveness as well. I think that's a huge part of being a consumer ourselves, and as a business, that's what is really exciting and interesting for us, is learning how it's all grown, learning how it's all processed, and as consumers ourselves, that's part of what kind of connects us to different products, different brands, from the veg that we buy in excess from what we grow in our garden, to sort of the cafes and restaurants that we go to. It really, it's part of the lifestyle, I guess, in that kind of like consuming with purpose and making sure that you take the time to delve deeper and understand how things are arriving in front of you.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess like you, Zoe, I don't care for clothes. I don't care for things like that. I care more to invest in food, right? So finding people that don't even see actually food, consumption in the sense of consuming as in using, but the way that the world looks at consumption as in just buying. That's, even when I look at you as a brand, I mean, I know you're still a business, but I don't see it as consumerism at all, because this is food, whether it's in powder form or liquid form. It is food that I want to put in my body because it's good for me. And I think people need to start looking at what are we spending our money on and what do we want to invest our money in. And food is definitely important, you know. And as you said, like even where you go, because it's easy to go to places that go to Macro or Costco and buy like in bulk from, you know, like big companies that produce the same crop 500 million times, and it's not going to taste the same. It's not going to be, even the experience is different, you know, because the food carry energy, and the energetics of the food really does come through when you're tasting something that is made by someone, whether it's certified organic or not, but just someone that cares for their plants and cares for their food. And equally, your products, which are jarred in jars that people can use again, first of all, so nothing goes to waste after, which I really love. I make candles out of the glass ones, or I store out the spices, or the cans from the teas, same. I tend to buy the turmeric latte in bigger bulks, so I can use the same tub again. Like, there are so many ways that you can repurpose the packaging, which is one way not to actually have waste. But also just knowing this is amazing food, and it can be used in so many ways every day of your life. So, it's nourishing you, and it carries good energy. So it's, yeah, I love it. I think this is why people need to understand what consumerism really is, and also how not to just think that every time when you're buying something, you're voting with your dollar. So if you're buying something that is beneficial for you, you are helping a company that cares throughout the whole chain, versus just buying stuff that we don't even know where it comes from. And I think, especially when, I see a lot of people going to the mall here on weekends. It's and sometimes I have to go to the mall because it's the only place where I can find a health store, where I can find Vitex or whatever. So I'm stuck. I have to go there, and I just see these clothing stores like H&M and so on being full of people. Now that's consumerism to me. That's just, you basically don't really think about it at all, like, especially when we know what these companies are all about. But buying food, like, that's an investment. That's how I see it. It's an investment into your health. It's a prevention, as we talked about at the beginning. So it's so beautiful to like have that. And well, so what's the next thing for you guys? I mean, I know, what is the next big thing that is around the corner, whether it's promoting what you already have, or any projects, any retreats, anything that's going on, and your new book?
Well, to like what's happening right now, we just actually launched our cinnamon powder, which is from a beautiful food forest in Sri Lanka. So we're just working on some beautiful recipes with that as well, to promote the benefits and the beautiful taste of cinnamon. And yeah, like we said earlier, there's so many ideas we have with local plants here in Mallorca. It's just a way of balancing our time. And we're quite bad. We never have a strategy, but things just flow. And yeah, we're actually relaunching and launching some new teas. Again, they're kind of created with regenerative farms across the world, and with biodynamic farms from the UK. So it's again like a combination of local herbs and beautiful regenerative farms that grow things that we cannot find closer to home. And well, am I forgetting anything, Tom?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we always do continually make little changes so that we are using the most up-to-date, kind of most environmentally friendly packaging that we can. So we are changing a few bits and pieces in our line, and we'll go into too much detail about that. And then really just trying to continue to educate about the different herbs, and especially with the tinctures, for instance, kind of trying to reinvigorate the knowledge and excitement about these herbs that we take for granted. I think things like thyme, rosemary, these are amazing medicinal plants that maybe have lost their sexiness over the years. They don't sound as exotic as ashwagandha, but they still have some really potent properties that we should learn about. So just continuing on that sort of educational journey, both ourselves and everyone else.
Yeah, I love that. You do some videos that are really cute on Instagram, and I love to see more of them. They're really good. Um, it's because you're right. People don't think that rosemary is a medicine, but actually, it's superb. You don't have to go exotic to have medicine in your garden. Even things like verbena or Melissa officinalis or lemon balm, basically. Like even that, if you have digestive issues and you drink some and you just feel so much better immediately with verbena. If you're like freaking out at night and can't sleep, it's not just chamomile. You can use that and you can grow it easier than chamomile. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Just going back to the basics. Absolutely. I'm actually quite glad that you have cinnamon now, because well, I think I actually talked to you about asking before, because I tend to have my blood sugar tends to go higher than it should easily, and cinnamon is such a powerful way to keep it in balance. So I use cinnamon like it's out of fashion, and if you share all the benefits of cinnamon, I'm sure more and more people will understand that it's not just a beautiful little spice; it's actually medicine.
Yeah, we'll have to send you some, and I'm excited to see all your delicious creations that I'm sure you'll create with it. But yeah, apart from the benefits, it's just such a beautiful smell and taste. So yeah, I hope a lot of people will enjoy it.
Absolutely, I'm sure. Guys, thank you so much. I'm going to share all your details, all the links, and let's get more people glowing gold.
Yeah, I love your shirt, by the way. I know people can't see it.
I knew you would.
Gold and yellow.
I knew you would. I have a turmeric situation in my wardrobe thanks to you.
Yeah, well, today's the first day I'm not wearing it. I even realized during our call, I was like, wow, you're golden turmeric. I'm not.
True. Your earrings are, which are brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Tom and Zoe, and thank you everyone for staying with us. I really hope you enjoyed this interview, and I really hope that you feel inspired to vote with your money. And if you haven't tried Window Workshop yet, please give it a try. In the show notes, you will have a discount code to save 15%. In the meantime, I will see you next time, and please do share, review, and give us thumbs up if you like the episodes. Bye!